to stick with the coaching carousel conversation, and I want to go to Ohio State's biggest rival because I want to talk about this Michigan situation, which is just a fascinating thing for me. Ward Manuel came out today, and I don't really know why he came out and had the press availability, but he made a statement to the press where he more or less backed Juwan Howard. And for the people listening at home, he said, I haven't really thought about any changes in our men's basketball program. I can't say it any clearer. I want to support Juwan to be successful and have not given any moment or thought of anything about changes at this time. We'll continue to support him in our program and continue to be there for him. Michigan is 8-17. They just got 40 burgered by Illinois on the road on, I think that was Tuesday night. Randolph, where do you stand on Juwan Howard? Where do you stand on this situation? Where do you stand on Ward Manuel coming out and saying this? It's a fascinating situation to me right now.
Sweeney, is you?
Look, the thing I would say with Michigan is we're risking this getting into toxic territory, right? And I think it was so disappointing that things had to end so ugly for Patrick Ewing at Georgetown, right? This guy's a legend, obviously a big part of their program's history, their success. And I think it was a mistake to let him last as long as it did, because I think it turned a lot of people's feelings about him, the person, around just because of who he was as a coach. And I think really for everyone's best interest, Juwan Howard and Michigan should find a way to part ways in this offseason. Because, look, like they're going to lose 22 games. It's going to tie an all-time record for the program. I don't want you to run it back if you're Juwan and lose again and it really turn ugly, right? Like they can part ways. He can go coach the NBA, be an assistant coach, potentially work his way into being a head coach one day. He can be a legend at Michigan. Like, I don't want Juwan to have to carry the burden of being the guy that broke Michigan basketball, right? And I just think things are in such a downward trend right now that it just feels uncomfortable to send him out there another year with the risk of it getting really, really ugly.
Yeah, I mean, RC, there's an easy out here, right? The easy out is him saying, hey, look, you know what? I have this heart issue. Coaching at the college level and everything that entails is too stressful. It doesn't work for me from a sleep perspective, this, that, and third. And he can go out in a way where it doesn't seem like, hey, you know what, it did not work for me here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like a mutual parting of ways probably makes the most sense because, I mean, Sweeney made a really good point there, I think.
If it's mutual, but the only thing I disagree with Sweeney on is the comparison with Patrick Ewing, because there was, Patrick, the only success he had was the late run winning the Big East tournament to get them into the tournament. Juwan has had success, and let's talk about this. What happens if Caleb Love was allowed to get into school, or if Shannon or any of these guys were there? Like, if is this team this bad? If just those two players was on this team, are they this bad? And he has shown the ability to recruit.
RC, and here's the other question I'll ask you: if Terrence Shannon is there right now, and Caleb Love is there right now, and both of those guys are on this team, is Hunter Dickinson still there? Do you still have him?
Does he make decisions? That's what I'm saying. Like, we can play the what if game and do all that. But my point of saying this about Michigan, it's funny because we were just having the same conversation about Ohio State. Let's not act like these schools don't have the resources. But when you start talking about Michigan and Ohio State, them resources are going to football. And so let's not act like, from a revenue standpoint, that if Michigan wanted a player for basketball to stay there ain't a whole lot of teams that can outbid them. I mean, there's only about 3 or 4 teams probably in the country that can outbid a player. Or, and I don't even want to use the word outbid, but if they have the resources that they have to get a student athlete, and let's call it what it is. I mean, we sat there on Field of 68 and heard Hunter Dickinson talk about how much he still talks to Juwan. He left for, and I get it, it's Kansas, but he enjoyed it there. He loved Juwan. He still talks to Juwan. So you're talking about potentially having him and then Terrence Shannon and a guy like Caleb. Like, he's showing you he can get guys. Now, are there some things that have to change? I think that's what you reevaluate. You really got to look at this and be like, hey, are you up for this? of getting this back to where it is? Will your health allow you to do that? I think that's all fair. But I do think he's earned the right to say, hey, we got to get back to where we were. I think he's shown you that. But I think the commitment has to be from, if I'm Juwan, who has options, if I'm Juwan, I'm saying, hey, if you want me to do this, this is what it's going to take right now. I think so. That's what I mean. And so it doesn't really matter if you move on.
You're right. You're right. You're not wrong.
Where did you go?
Wrong.
Right? Like, who do you give the money to? Like, who comes in? Is they going to have the same thing? If they can't get players in there, if all the money is still going to go to football, what difference do it make? That's the times we're living in. So we're just making the assumption because the money that the football team gets goes to basketball, and that's not the case. Admissions and all those things. If all those things got to be behind the programs.
Hey, it's not just the money here. We're going to play some sound here from a Juwan Howard press conference after the Illinois win, and I'll explain what it means here in a second after Trevor plays it.
You're familiar with Terrence Shannon. What stood out?
Very familiar with Terrence Shannon. You're welcome.
Would you elaborate on that? What stood out about him today?
You're welcome. Yeah. Terrence Shannon is a guy who I recruited, who committed to the University of Michigan, as you all are very aware of. And you're welcome. He's played extremely well since he's been here.
So basically the story is that Terrence Shannon and Caleb Love both opted to commit to Michigan and wanted to go to Michigan and wanted to play for Michigan and for Juwan Howard, and could not get in for, I guess, academic reasons. Classes didn't transfer or whatever it was. And that kind of sums up the issue with Michigan basketball right now because, Sweeney, be honest with me. If Michigan football wanted to get a player in, do you think that anybody would give a single flying F about whether or not that kid had a class that was going to be able to transfer from whatever program they were at?
Look, I don't disagree with that. And I think RC made some fair points about Juwan's success. And to be clear, he did a way better job overall than Patrick Ewing did at Georgetown. I think the one thing I will say is this. Terrence Shannon and Caleb Love were in the exact same academic situation. They were 3-year kids who were non-grad transfers, right? I understand if you were surprised with Terrence Shannon, even though you could talk no-gel Eastern even before that. I understand if you were surprised that Michigan didn't let you do Terrence Shannon. But after a debacle like that, I better be darn sure that everything is lined up. Every duck is in a row, every I dotted, every T crossed before I announce Caleb Love is the key to my offseason, right? Like, I understand you have to give a coach the resources to succeed. And I think Michigan's done a poor job of doing that with Juwan. But I also think the Caleb Love situation in particular is not just a failing of Michigan admissions or Michigan, the school, whatever. It's a failing of Juwan's as well, because you had to plan for that a little bit better than he did.
Yep, I think there's a lot of blame to go around all around. All right,